Hello from UMAi Dry Steak. Today we're going to do a crusted, dry-aged tenderloin. I'm going to show you a couple different preparations, but the beauty of doing crusted tenderloin dry-aged is you only need 4 or 5 days to get excellent results. We're going to start with a full tenderloin, which at Costco we got for only $10.99 a pound. We're going to do a little work to clean it up, but you'll see that, which justifies the price. We're also using a Food Saver 3250 and the VacMouse vacuum aid, which makes it possible to apply dry bag steak with a Food Saver. So we're going to cut this tenderloin out, and you can see it's got a little bit of cleaning up for us to do. But since you're getting a beautiful piece of meat like this for only about half the price of a piece of tenderloin that's been cleaned up by your butcher, it's probably worth it to trim a little silver skin and tear off a little bit of the fat. Now, dry aging is generally done to accomplish 3 things: to tenderize the meat, to draw out the moisture and deepen the beef flavor, and to allow the fat to take on a very nutty characteristic. Now, a tenderloin is a very lean piece of meat in general, so you're not going to get that sort of nuttiness off of the fat. It's also a piece of meat that's also so tender that to dry age it a typical 21, 28, 30 days does not improve the texture of a tenderloin. What it does do, if you give a tenderloin a couple of days of age, especially if you've coated it with aromatics or powdered mushroom, the way we're going to demonstrate, is those flavors will permeate this relatively mild piece of meat, and you don't need to lose any of the precious cut to trim. Now you see we've cut this, we've got the head end of the tenderloin on one side and the tail end, and we've left the chain on. You can definitely take that off and use it for something else, but we decided since we're going to tie this up and prepare part of it as a roast and part of it as a steak after dry aging, that the meat will be pretty well tightly held together, and so we thought it warranted leaving the chain on for this preparation. So we're going to tie up the tenderloin using a blanket stitch, or I'm not sure, butcher's knots, and give it some good shape. This is the tail end of the tenderloin that we're demonstrating here. So we've wrapped the tail under, as you can see, and we just have to make sure that the knots hold the piece together well. There we go. So there's our tenderloin, all ready for the next step in the process. So we're going to be preparing this with some herbs, as I said, powdered mushroom, salt and pepper. One preparation we'll do here is ground fennel seed and rosemary. These will be ground up really well. We chose to do it by hand here to bring out the flavors, and then we'll use some fresh ground black pepper and kosher salt. Mix them up, and then make sure that we gently and carefully coat the whole tenderloin really well with this nice blend of aromatics. You can imagine that if we bag this up with UMAi Dry Steak, it'll give it a couple days for the flavors to permeate. Our second preparation is ground chanterelle mushrooms with tarragon. Again, we're adding kosher salt and ground pepper, and we're pulverizing the entire mixture to give it just a really lovely fine coating. And when this cooks up, it makes for a really lovely finish on the meat. This was the portion that we did as steaks, actually. So there we are with a very well coated crusted tenderloin and our UMAi Dry Steak bag. We have a special tenderloin bag available with the tenderloin kit. So this is the process for bagging up your crusted tenderloin. We're going to carefully put it into this rather narrow bag. It's an 8-inch bag, which makes for an excellent fit for most tenderloins. Gives you a little bit of extra space without it being too much. So we're going to fit it as best as possible into one side, trim the end of the bag so we have only about 4 or 5 inches, and then grasp it in your fist to make a nice wrinkled pattern. It creates better air channels in the opening. We'll insert the VacMouse vacuum aid, which will help your food saver sealer to seal UMAi Dry Large Steak, this flat material. And we're going to set the food saver on the wet setting. Help to move the air out as the vacuum pump is drawing it. And you'll see how beautifully that VacMouse will also hold back any of the meat protein that might want to be drawn into the vacuum. It definitely helps keep your vacuum sealer clean. We're going to do a second seal, resting that on the sealing bar there. And we just do that as insurance in case there's any of the blood that may have gone up into that first seal. So from this point, we're going to take our bagged up piece of tenderloin, put it on an open wire rack for only 4 or 5 days. And after that time, what you have here looks like this. We'll take these out of the UMAi Dry Large Steak, and you'll see that they're darkened a little bit, but hardly hardened at all. They brown up really beautifully. And we will have prepared one with some white wine and rosemary in a roasting pan. In both the roast and the case of the steak, we brought them up to an internal temperature of 125 to 130. And our steaks we prepared with chive butter and shallots, and we enjoyed them very much.